Let me ask you, because I mean, the Clintons have, I think their recognition of value in the world is incredibly high, and I think they were some of the first. He in particular was one of the first Democrats that even Republicans could get on board with in many ways. But you met him way back before his presidency. How did he impress you back then? Was he as imposing back then as everybody says who's met him? Everybody I've ever heard who's talked about him has said he had something about him that stuck out, that made him stick out.
Yeah, he could see you for 5 seconds and a year later still remember.
No way.
And the story, whatever it was you were talking about. He was very, at that time, my view of him, he was very John Kennedy-esque.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have a picture.
In more ways than one, but that's a different story. In more ways than one, he was like John F. Kennedy. But
yes. I have a picture shaking his hand when he went over the top. Is the same kind of scene as a Kennedy picture that I love. So I did that, did the campaign, traveled with Hillary extensively, and we won. Went on vacation, went back home to West Texas, because now I'm out of the Army, go back to West Texas. That's what I know. I'm sitting in my apartment in West Texas trying to think of, okay, what am I going to do now? And the phone rings, and it's a friend of mine. My apologies there.
No worries.
Okay. A friend of mine from the campaign calls, and she says, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm at home. And she goes, get your butt up here. I'm like, where? She goes, Washington, D.C., we have a country to run.
Very cool. That's a call to action.
So I go to Washington, D.C., and I'm working on the inaugural committee, and suddenly somebody says, hey, the Pentagon needs a White House liaison. The White House liaison is basically the guy that fires the old administration and hires the new administration. Yeah. So I said, sure, let's do it. Went to the Pentagon and grew from there. I became a Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army, stayed for the entire time. I actually ran Y2K for the closing elements of my time there. And then transitioned into nonprofit. Did that for a very short period of time and got out of it because I didn't like the business acumen, to be quite frank. I
do some charitable work as well, and I love it. But yeah, there's some challenges if you come from a more structured business perspective.
Yeah, you have to, and I think that there's a balance that needs to happen there. You got to have the commitment, but you got to have the business savvy too. Yeah. And so I left that and went into business. Merged my little company with a group of other guys, grew that company, sold out my interest to go campaign for Hillary Clinton in 2008. We all know what happened there. Yeah. And then eventually became an Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Obama administration.
Okay.
Did that until I thought I would be the next Secretary of the Army for Hillary Clinton, and that didn't happen. So I started another business in 2017, and that's where I am now, is running a government contracting firm.